The Witcher, Hexer, Chapter 10, Trillzomn's Fury. Can you come here, please? An unfamiliar voice came out from the riverbed near the rocks. Who are you, and why have you come to torment us in our time of distress? Can't you see? My wife is grieving terribly. Duny held back his own weeping to stay strong for Pavetta, and his voice was cracking in a struggle to do so. I'm terribly sorry, sir. I only ask because it will be difficult for me to come any nearer to you. I have some valuable information for you that I know will help you. The creature made it clear that it was kind, and not a creature of chaos, like the monsters they knew. Nothing surprises me. My husband used to be a hedgehog. Why should I not believe the words of a giant talking platypus with a crocodile smile? Princess Pavetta made Duny about shit his pants laughing. Darling, please, show this monster some respect, as you showed me, my dear. For all we know, this could be another cursed man, afflicted as I, Duny interjected. Go on, my duck-billed friend. What is this valuable information you might have for us? I'm painfully curious. Princess Pavetta remained playful. Thank you, Princess. Thank you to you and your husband for such pleasantness in my odd company. I want to give you the help of the benevolent beasts of the sea who have fled from the Queen of the Sea, Queen Cyree. War is breaking out because of the newly discovered alliance between the Tyrant Rogue Queen and this being from beyond the stars. They are to be married, and this sexless creature from the underworld is their druid. Their agenda is to destroy mankind, as the elves have been killed in the bloody past. Not only this, but many monsters will be killed. Both good creatures and bad will die in the process. I'm sending word to the many good creatures and monsters of the sea, for there are many, and we have built a nice place for you. Just keep going in the direction you're going, and know that help waits for you. More than help, but a rightful kingdom for you. The giant platypus had not even given a name in his urgency. This seems too good to be true. We do know of the legends of Queen Cyree, Queen of the Sea. I guess all we can do is put our blind faith and trust into you, as we're desperate and have no other options. You must know what this Trillzomn has threatened us with concerning our precious newborn baby daughter. If you say that we are rightful king and queen, then you recognize our daughter to be the true future of civilization for our world. In these treacherous times of war between the monsters beyond the stars, although he has not revealed yet, I know Trillzomn knows something about this all, because he has been the only celestial being among the cosmic monsters to speak to humans. Princess Pavetta pleased her husband, Duny, and he had to add his thoughts before the creature would have room to speak on what she said. My wife Pavetta is correct in her words. As you shall trust us and help us, we shall give you our trust, and be the best leaders we can be, for the sake of your kingdom and civilization. Now, if they allow, then so be it, for we shall be whatever you wish us to be, for your kindness you show us this day in our time of trouble. Duny gave the word. Thank you for trusting me. I took a big risk coming this way after hearing what I heard. Now I must go. I hope to meet you there at the shore. See you there, I hope. I hope with all the hope I have. The creature went back to jump in the water. Please give us a name, since you know us. We hope to know you, if we meet again as you say you hope. Pavetta spoke with urgency, as she knew the creature was about to be gone. My name is Vekch. but I believe the proper human translation would be Vec. It is a lovely meaning about time. It's how long my type of people live, a century. And the beast jumped in the river without another word. Did I hear correctly? Did he refer to his kind as a people? Dooney looked stunned as he asked his wife for confirmation. You heard right, my love. I believe his people are a mixed race, as the rumors prove to be true. The sea people are more varied and abundant than we imagined. Pavetta recalled the tales she grew up hearing about. Last night and this morning have proven to be quite the learning experience about our world. Dooney raised his brow. Not just our world, but the worlds that have passed. These otherworldly monsters. We have much more to learn, my Dooney. Pavetta looked at her husband with grave concern. Now, the reason why people throughout the centuries have assumed the world to be flat is because of the conjunction of the spheres and the aftermath that ensued. Many worlds collided and sent different creatures into a maelstrom of chaotics. Many worlds were utterly obliterated, while others were fragmented. Continents among worlds, like Earth, had gone into orbit around neighboring worlds for a time, until they disintegrated, entering warfare, or sank into the mismatched components. In these times, Earth had 3 of these floating continents orbiting within the atmosphere, all in levels higher than the other, for about 400 years. The 2 smaller continents from other worlds crashed into each other over time, while the larger dominant one remained highest above. Those 2 that exploded still had a few large pieces that turned into floating islands, and were eventually taken over to be habitable again during their final years of existence while in the Earth's atmosphere. Monsters and men lived on these floating continents. Before the lower 2 were spread apart by impact and turned into islands, it was easy for them all to go from one to another. As the atmosphere changed along with the climate from the conjunction of the spheres with the massive galaxy collisions beyond the stars, monsters dropped down in rapid descent to the Earth. This is how the monsters came that began to eat and kill with too great of numbers in casualty. By fate, the collision happened on both scales large and small, from galaxial constellations to worlds to those worlds' remnants. If anyone ever wondered how there could be so many comets, meteors, and asteroids, one only has to reminisce and skim through the history of the conjunction of the spheres. It is rumored to be true that after the collision of the lower floating continents from neighboring extinct worlds during the time of the early Forest Kingdom's beginnings, that the wisest of the old races made it up to the highest large continent. More than 100 sea giants, more than 100 elves, more than 100 dwarves, more than 100 gnomes. Some of the best regarded humans at the time also came, but not nearly as many as the other elder races of the earth. There are many other ancient pre-human races that stayed on the earth. Most of them were malevolent, while some good ones were too wild, like fairies. Many a tale has been told concerning the higher continents. People who've been lost at sea imagined they were falling off the edge of the world when storms came while orbiting continents came and swept them away. The gravitational force gave an incredible illusion when the lower two still existed in their enormous form before being dashed to pieces by their impact with each other. Even still, on a full moon night at sea, when the larger, higher floater continent would come over a ship under the moon, a terrible atmospheric change would occur, making ships move in ways they were not designed to be navigated. Either going off course, spinning, being knocked to one side, flying, or jumping in the air, or being pushed down into the water. Nothing is more dangerous than air and water, especially in earthly proportions, while being shifted on a planetary scale. These otherworldly continents appeared on the surface to be flat as any flat land on Earth. The truth was much different than what anyone wanted to accept in those times, for most of the minds on Earth chose to be simpletons. They did not want to believe that these were remnants of neighboring worlds. If someone paid attention to the actual form from a good distance, then the continents would be seen for what they are. Their shape was indefinable as broken rocks. There were many elaborate dimensions to these lumpy stones. The legends of old did exist. Those ones who ascended in the beginning of their arrival had bred offspring who possessed the knowledge and knew there was more to them than what the simpletons of the earth chose to believe. To the majority of the Earth's population, these were belonging to Earth, from the Earth and part of our land. The ones who dared to look deeper into the truth of things found truth, and its many fantastical layers. These actual floating lands themselves had many levels about them. For instance, that long-lasting largest and highest level continent had 3 valleys, which drastically varied in size. One was incredibly large, taking up almost a third of its size. The other 2 valleys were an eighth and a fifth the size of the large valley. There was a giant cave-hole entrance to a gigantic cavern going almost all the way through to the bottom of this floating continent. The labyrinthic tunnels were like the insides of a snail shell, if it were connected to many conjoined twins with blown-out random holes in walls acting as tunnels. This was the place where the dwarves of the higher hundred lived in their advanced civilization. These dwarves had the best place on earth for proposed luxurious living and comfortable safety. The beauty of it all was the fact that no one else from the outside, down on earth, would have ever been able to see their secret kingdom, let alone guess such a place existed within the place wherewith the underground palaces were located. Smooth walls, polished to a brilliant clarity of the colors which are not visible down on the lower planes, had kaleidoscopic patterns throughout the immaculate otherworldly design that could only be described as divinical perfection. The continent itself was called Divinikalikata. Divinikalikata is significant in the story of the Witcher, Geralt of Rivia, because this was the apex of contact between worlds, which brought the monsters to Earth that came from the conjunction of the spheres, bringing those hateful creatures that only thirst for blood, preferably human blood, elf blood, or dwarf blood. These were the 3 along with giant blood and gnome blood, although they were more difficult for the monsters to feast upon. As soon as the bravest and noblest of the ancient races of the earth made it to Divinikalikata in their first conquest, it was the beginning of the war between monsters and men. This is a mostly untold story, like the history of the genocidal massacres and persecution of the elves, because there still were many dwarves. They mostly passed on the stories as best as they could, because these races were the oldest and best of friends between the elder races of the earth. O Divinikalikata, the otherworldly land that broke free of monstrous tyranny, Trillzomn has a past that he cares not to share nor dare, unless he be revealed as more of a monster than he cares to be within his own mind. Trillzomn has the sickness of a forgetful conscience. The celestial being beyond the stars was gifted with a gift he abused, neglected, and perverted to do much selfish, prideful evil through his carelessness, masking these things with his self-justification through his own godlike perception. Trillzomn made himself God in his own mind and never had consequence for his horrendous deeds. He was a destroyer of races, civilizations, and worlds. It could be speculated that Trillzomn is responsible for the calamities which in turn brought on the conjunction of the spheres, as he offset the balance of time throughout space. His own will interfering with what was good and right and true between nature's ways throughout different worlds has surely been affected immensely by Trillzomn's impactful decisions, while he was either flexing his power or doing nothing to fix the wrongs he had done. Such a horrible man, this Starman, has chosen his own fate, being damned to be king of the selfish kingdom of the sea with the queen he had chosen. Two rulers of worlds that grew in the wrong way instead of what could have been wonderful for their kind. Instead, it was a selfish pride that brought them down to their knees, while they caused much suffering through disastrous decisions to separate themselves who they felt were inferior. One would have to truly be inflicted by the darkest of evil hexation to understand this level of darkness. Geralt of Rivia and Yennefer the sorceress were two combined forces that understood such affliction and oppression. It wouldn't be long until they would become familiar with the damage that Trillzomn had done, and would do, on the old earth. Once becoming familiar, Geralt the Witcher would begin a new hunt. It would become his main goal in life to utterly destroy Trillzomn. Surely he would wish to kill S and the Queen of the Sea as well, but after becoming educated fully on the events that the higher elves would fill him in on concerning the conjunction of the spheres, this would be proven to be more than mere speculation after witnessing firsthand the deeds of Trillzomn. With the aid of Yennefer, the most powerful sorceress, Geralt the Witcher would travel in bridged portal vortexes which acted almost like miniature black holes within the edges of the earth and the limits of the higher planes at the top of the atmosphere. From this great effort, Geralt and Yennefer would revive an old saying. If she says my love is too much, then I say my affection is not shown enough. This has been the sentiment conveyed through the ways of the old ones of the earth concerning their beloved ancient world that monsters were destroying. By hateful primal beasts, this law was not only broken but also grossly neglected, which proved to be worse over time concerning the fate of the old world. If it had not been for the terrible ways of Trillzomn, these terrible monsters from the cosmos wouldn't have had a way to come through the magical otherworldly powers of the celestial being and his changing of the will of the constellations that were originally put in place to revolve peacefully in harmony. Maybe it was the harmonious peace that destroyed Trillzomn's goodwill, as the celestial being set himself apart from the rest, setting aside any conformity between the nature of the primitive ones of his kind and his neighbors that he cared not to mingle with, or even look upon. If not for Geralt of Rivia, with the help of Yennefer, his reluctant love, the fight wouldn't have been much of a fight. Even with the great power of a new kingdom between the beasts of the sea joining with Duny and Pavetta as their powerful and wise rulers within their secret advanced civilization, it was Geralt, through his powerful experience as the Lone White Wolf, being the hunter and killer of monsters, that would win against the many deceitful and carelessly destructive acts of Trillzomn. In the end, many sorrows would be seen, and many battles ended, to where there truly were no victors, Yet the good fight would prevail with the one who simply would not die. How can evil kill what knows their ways and fights for the ultimate good for all? No matter how alone in his long, many lives, actually, the old Hexer, Geralt of Rivia, would not grow weak. Experiencing death 1,000 times, Geralt's 1,000 deaths gave him rebirth into a stronger self, which was selfless. Yes, the White Wolf had needs, as any man has, needing a good woman and the affections of love that come with those primal desires, as any man or woman can attest for that matter. This cannot bring his credit down as a selfless man, which Geralt always was, while always setting out on a continual hunt to do what is right for the land. Maybe it was Geralt's burning in his blackened heart for the destroyed land of his beloved Rivia that never let him die in his endless hunt to carry out justice by the curse the Hexers laid upon him. Who's to say? He never let out the sentiment that could only be conveyed through the songs of the bard. Who knew why the Witcher slew? Who knew? Who knew? Only his own mind, that kept to himself throughout time, could know the thoughts of the one that would never die. The Witcher, the one with the fire in his eyes. Nothing would end his life, no matter how hard they tried. Be it his fate to die 1,000 times, to rise from the ashes, a mightier might inside. The heart of the Witcher is blackened and stone, but the love of a woman he softened when known. Onward through ages and passing of time, the Witcher kept on with no reason or rhyme. It is I who must put the rhyme to your reason, Geralt. Jaskier was reunited yet again with his old friend, Geralt of Rivia. Jaskier, I became so happy when I heard your voice, and I knew it was you. I'm so glad that Yennefer has found you to bring you all out of the deep forest valley. I understand that something has happened we do not yet grasp to understand, my friend. Please tell me what has happened. Geralt the Witcher had first been brought together with the reuniting of his band of misfits with Yennefer's help, as she went searching until she found them all, to bring them together through her powerful portal vortex magic. Oh, Geralt, this Starman has fallen from the sky down to our world. He has tricked us. Many have died along the way. We've received reports through brave messengers that Pavetta and Duny have encountered the celestial being as well, who is called Trillzomn. He has warned them to never return again to their daughter, and she is with the queen of the forest. How tragic, truly. The grandmother is raising their child when this should never be. The bard sparked something in Geralt that ignited an animalistic rage within him. Geralt grabbed the bard and picked him up, a foot in the air, holding him by his biceps, baring his teeth like a rabid wolf. Where did you learn of this? How, man? Please don't be angry with me. At first I was tricked by the power of this Starman. He was magnificent, Gerald, but then word reached us by way of the sorceress. Yennefer learned of Pavetta and Duny's terrible fate through trials witnessed by many. No one knows really how their daughter got back to the Queen of the Forest, though. It was very mysterious to everyone, because of this druid who calls himself S. The bard didn't realize the spells and evil cosmic powers that had such a hold on him, making him forget what he should have learned. Jaskier, there's been such witchcraft weaved about you and your friends that you cannot see what has happened. Geralt tried to explain, but was in such a rage from the black blood in his veins as a Hex Witcher, it was impossible to calm down in that moment. Geralt, put him down. Don't take it out on him, Yennefer intervened, as she appeared once again from the place she was hiding in her secret chamber of seeing. You said you would not return until you would learn more of these things. Please tell me you've learned something that can help. Borch spoke while his daughters looked wildly at her as a natural reaction from the vortex portal magic. I was learning more, and was interrupted as I saw what was happening here. Yes, I'm learning more and more as I stay in my seeing chamber. I cannot yet tell you what I'm learning other than there is some good news waiting for Pavetta and Dooney, yet they have more hardships in their way as they get to where they need to go by the seaside. Yennefer explained the severity of her seeing situation and complexity of the process. Please, don't be so disturbed by my harshness that it would remove you from such important work. You are greater than I, Yennefer, and I've proven this to myself by letting myself down in my course of action. Addressing Yennefer while recognizing his wrongs, Geralt was tired and apologetic, yet angering Yennefer with his overly remorsefulness. At first, you boiled my blood with anger, then you bring me down to a simmer. Yennefer tried to elaborate on this, and Borch's daughters surprised everyone with their intervention in the matter. First, Tia spoke on her observation. I see that you don't know how to speak to each other. It is not just you, or you, she pointed to Yennefer, then Geralt with her spear. Then Vea added to the wild sister's silent wisdom, finally speaking out loud, Yes, listen, and take heart to what my sister said. It would do you both well to think better before you speak. This is a way of life for us, to only speak when it is necessary, as our father taught us that the best warriors are the wisest, and the wisest listen. My God, you're brilliant, both of you, absolutely genius. I never would have guessed. Oh, please don't kill me, Teavea. Jaskier the Bard made them laugh so hard, each and everyone there, that it was just what everyone needed in the moment to bring everyone in for the task at hand. Listen, I'm going to go back this last time, and when I return from my seeing chamber, then I'll be with you in all our battles. I had to do what I've done for the sake of our world, and for all the good that is still left, which is many, many more good ones than we originally thought before this day. Yennefer spoke with words of the wisest of wise, more so than all the other sorceresses and druids, or any elder hexer. Yennefer had been traveling through her seeing spells at an unfathomable rate because she was combining portal vortex spells so that she could see and follow with more than her eyes and ears. If she wished, she could step out of the pocket which she cloaked for her protection, and yet mostly remained within the bubble-like realm of mysterious travel. These were advanced spells that she was actually creating above the teachers who tortured her in the first place to become so strong. She had become that lightning in the bottle that she was trying to obtain to wield. There was no more chasing that power because she had become it. Within the timelines of timelines, the times revealed much wisdom to Yennefer. Geralt had possessed this wisdom from experiencing life and death continually, and for Yennefer it was the same, yet different, because of the painful process of her mastering of magic through supreme sorcery, which bypassed the old and the new ways to create a better way. The better way for Yennefer had brought everyone together after much trickery through the Dark Ones, being the Malevolent Three, who were newly formed as an alliance. Yennefer got to learn and tell of what she learned of this, as well as the wonderful news that was waiting for them all concerning Pavetta and Dooney if they could only survive the rest of their journey. Filled with the hope of their new friend from the sea, it was envisioned in Pavetta's mind, and when this happened, then Dooney knew it would soon turn into becoming. They were on their way. Geralt and his band of misfits learned in this evening all that Yennefer could learn that was not shielded by the many woven spells of the Master Druid S by the strengthening power of Trillzomn, their true enemies. S could no longer fool them, and certainly not Trillzomn, who was coming into the light with all of his terrible deeds. The beginning of learning was already despicably unacceptable when it came to Trillzomn and all they knew. After only being introduced to the things that were known about this Starman, as Jaskier the Bard called him, the celestial being was finally being put into the proper light to be seen through the archaic lens of seeing. Yennefer herself was the magic that made things possible to move forward in the fight that would become the greatest war on earth between all creatures. Yennefer described all they would have to do in order to achieve the goals in mind, to keep the world safe from the ongoing destruction by the chaotic, malevolent ones. Yennefer made it be known very plainly that it was clear in order what needed to be done and also what could not be done. If interference with any of the specifics would become distorted in the esotericism of the art she has created, then everything would become undone. This would create further discord and destruction, giving rise to an evil alliance of power the world could not withstand. This meant that the world would be given over to these malevolent beings, and their agenda would erase not only humanity, not only the other good benevolent races of people, not only all creatures, reducing them to food for the monstrously hateful beasts, but even those monsters hated by the supremely intellectual ones who have made their move to take over. The powers of power itself were at war on the earth, by way of worlds lost and destroyed, angrily provoked monsters with only one thing in mind, and all that comes with the aftermath. Beauty and tragedy were simultaneously revolving in the chaotic changes of the earth, which was in its biggest transitional phase to occur for many countless thousands of years. With all the evil cosmic powers from the constellations as well as the black magic powers from the underworld that resided on Earth, along with the great kingdom of the sea, which was its own sector of the underworld, arguably larger than the hidden underworld itself, things became interesting. That underworld kingdom of the abyss under the oceans of the ancient Earth was now divided completely, and there were many more creatures, sea people, and beasts who were siding with Duny and Pavetta than there were with Queen Cyree. This forced Trillzomn to breed with her as soon as possible, and this is where Trillzomn went with haste, because Cyree called for him in desperation. Trillzomn was swooned by the queen giant, and went into her immediately. Trillzomn shot into the sky like a burning comet. He felt the desperation of the signal the queen hummed from within her deepest vibrational frequency, the special connective noise directly to Trillzomn's receptors for higher intelligence within his super brain picked up the correct notion meant to be received, with all of the right instructions. Trillzomn got there in only a moment's time, as if he only had to go down a short path, when in reality it would have taken any other creature a week or more to get to the location deep within the ocean. A creature would have to either fly or swim, because running would not work too well for all the different territory Trillzomn had to surpass in order to get through these obstacles of diverse landscapes. Imagine what Trillzomn had to do in order to get there in the hidden kingdom of the underworld within the deep abysses of the ocean. First, flying over harsh terrain of the deep forests where he had landed from beyond the stars, immediately to go over a large continent's length in distance, over the waters of the ocean, only to be forced to follow the special biological signal of the rare higher intelligent brain, being forced to dive deep in the abysses of the cavernous parts of the ocean, through tunnels of the trenches, which were the gateways of the old rulers. The giant sea people, which Queen Cyrene was the last of the last. There was no more, so there needed to be a better race, or so she thought. The evil Queen of the Sea, Queen Cyrene, got what she wanted, as did Trillzomn, and she bred quickly, as her kind was able to do, even more so with the powerful help of Trillzomn. In the meantime, while Trillzomn went into Cyrene, the fight along the way to their boat was very difficult for Pavetta and Duny. One of the frustrating parts of the order that had to be fulfilled, according to Yennefer, in order to keep everything in motion for the help of the good, benevolent ones of the sea to happen safely and securely, was that no one could go that way to help Pavetta and Duny. They had to go on their own, or else it would be known to the monsters what was coming. This, in turn, would bring the other evil ones, as there still were many evil druidic sorcerers that Geralt needed to worry about, as did his group. The royal guard had to stay with the castle to keep Ciri safe, and S was overseeing everything, so the child was safe as long as the Queen of the Forest was alive. No matter how much Geralt wanted to worry about the child, he could not reach her until he would do all he could in the matters of what was instructed by Yennefer. Thankfully, Geralt's part wouldn't take him long in his concept of time before he could go back to claim Ciri, his child of surprise. And so Geralt of Rivia, Yennefer, the Supreme Sorceress, and their band of misfits would go on a strange mission to different places left unexplored by them until this point, and would meet many people of the ancient races that have been lofty in their high places, while Pavetta and Duny were forced to fight for their lives to their boat, which was supposed to be their carefree honeymoon, after already living lives of incredible hardships.